This is other state champ Alex Thompson. This is Josh Elwer from the University of Northern Iowa, and you're listening to Potentially Dangerous on IA Wrestle.
Hey, is this heaven? No, it's Iowa.
From high school to international wrestling, on the mat and beyond, this is the Potentially Dangerous podcast with the guys from IA Wrestle.
If you're a fighter, you like a fight. If you're an American, you like a fight. If you're an Iowa Hawkeye, you know you're going to get a fight.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and all your podcast-friendly apps. And follow us on social media platforms at IA Wrestle. Time to strap it up and get to the show. All right, we are back with episode 8 of Potentially Dangerous. I'm your host, Tony Hager, joined by Ross Bartachek, the Hawkeye Insider, little Iowa State. Yeah, you got a little Iowa State in you too this year, and Nick Ryder's got our UNI coverage. We're hopefully going to have him on here in the coming weeks to talk about the big duel coming up, and we've got another podcast coming out too that we're going to real dive into the Iowa high school rankings that we brought out, 1A and 2A. We will be releasing 3A rankings next week too, so we'll have Kirk Crittenden on to dive into those. But Ross, you had a busy weekend in Iowa City. You jumped in the pond again. I haven't been out there for a couple years, so it wasn't the pond though this year. I mean, are we getting soft here? We're getting a pool. What's the story on why we're in the pool, not the pond?
Oh, man, yep. Annual Hawkeye Wrestling Club Plunge. I did get informed by the coaching staff and several other Hawkeye Wrestling Club members that Tony Hager's presence was soon to be requested at the event. Your sabbatical's been noted. So,
okay.
I don't know. They're asking for you to come back. They appreciated the money you raised this year, though. But yeah, so taking place right after the Michigan duel, it was kind of a bear to get out of Carver. I mean, everybody's trying to leave. You got however many thousand people leaving Carver, and most of them are going toward 80 to get home. And then and that's the way you get to Brown Deer Golf Course from Carver, of course. So it was a bit of a challenge to get there, kind of different from the last 3 years. But I think having that duel really beefed up the crowd for the Plunge. Sounds like the ice on the pond there was a little thin, or they didn't want to test it. I know it was kind of a question last year when we had some nice weather, whether they even wanted to go out on the pond last year. So this year they brought in an above ground pool, and we jumped into that. It wasn't quite as cold. So, I mean, as a plunger, I loved it because I got that cold rush, that shock. Still difficult to get out of, just like the pond, because you had to climb this tiny little ladder. But so jumped in, got cold, and then I was up first. So I was changed and out, and I was able to catch most of the show. You got to jump first. Is it just because first come first serve, or what? I was so they went alphabetical. So I don't know. There's a couple people before me, but I was like third in line, and I was right up there.
Gotcha.
And another cool thing, kind of just building off this for people that did go, or maybe they haven't gone, or maybe they went years past. You've been there in the pond. It's different because you're still a ways back with the hill on how close you can get to the actual plunging. But with the pool, they were able to have people all the way surrounded around the pool, and then they use that deck where they have the big ballroom, up in the clubhouse. And you could walk out on the deck. So there was people that were able to watch from above. There's people all the way around it. So, there was a lot more people around the actual plunge taking place. So it's kind of a different, cooler atmosphere having those people right on top of you.
Did they have heaters out there for the spectators?
I don't know. Honestly, I just ran there. I knew where the sauna was, but it was on the opposite side of the ladder, so I got out of the water, and I was like, I'm going to hightail it to the clubhouse, try and hit the showers, and, I was up first. I knew I had first come, first serve for that.
So who was, like, the most, like, interesting plunger that you saw? I mean, the one year that I went, I was like, Pat Anger's here, just giant human being, and that was a year that he dressed up he went. I got caught up with him on Twitter, and he went as shoot, and we jumped together, and it was a heck of a time. You know, so who was there that was kind of like, oh wow, you're type of guy or girl?
It was obviously everyone knew Matt and Laura Vandenberg were going to be there. I think they were kind of the bigger non-wrestling affiliated celebrities this year. I think that's kind of the only ones that really stick out to me for, someone new to be there. And they were very nice people. Got to chat with both of them a little bit and just talk to them. But obviously they were Vandenberg end of the line, so I got called up right away. So kind of didn't get to chat with them as long as I like, but they were just very nice people.
Aw.
Oh, I know. I made some friends.
Did they follow? I mean, did they follow you on Twitter and you followed them back, kind of deal, or like?
No, I didn't get that. I thought I was going to, but they didn't have any of it. Because Matt came up to me and he was like, "Hey, are you wearing your shoes in the pool?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm wearing garbage shoes that I've jumped in the pond with all 3 years. I'm mowing these things. They're disgusting." I'm like, yes. But you're wearing some sweet kicks. He had some like really white Nikes on. I'm like, those look like some expensive shoes. I would probably just go barefoot or, just not in those. So I saved his shoes. I thought maybe that was the beginning of a friendship.
Oh.
So I'm a little heartbroken that I didn't get a follow back. I got some favorites.
Rule number 1, don't be weird and get their cell phone number, but always get that follow back. You never know what it can lead to. So that's just that's a tip to grow those Twitter followers there, Ross B.
I'm trying. I thought I was gonna get it, but no dice. Hopefully they come back next year, and I can strike something up again about their shoes. I don't know. I'm a little heartbroken on this, but
all right. So the Hawkeye duel was obviously disappointing. I can't imagine a lot of people were pretty fired up. Be interesting to see what the coaches were like. We don't need to get into those details, but I mean, everyone's talking about obviously the Pat Downey situation. People were thinking he was going to be on. I mean, was there talk about it at the Plunge? Because a lot of things happened this week, I'm told.
At the Plunge, it wasn't. I think there was this growing. Everybody was really optimistic about Pat Downey. But nobody knew what was going to happen. We've kind of even talked about this on the podcast, Tony, that it was like, well, maybe he'll be there for Midlands. Well, maybe he'll wrestle Oklahoma State. Maybe it'll be Ohio State. And then it was like, well, maybe it's Michigan now. Maybe we're waiting on that waiver. So it just kind of kept getting pushed back maybe and maybe. And I did have some people come up to me at the Michigan duel, and they were like, are we going to see Pat Downey tonight? I was feeling pretty confident since he wasn't on the roster. At that point, it's not going to happen. So I felt like, once people knew it definitely wasn't happening against Michigan, I don't know if people kind of already had it in their head that it's over. There's no way. But I don't know. I didn't hear anything at the Plunge specifically.
I just thought that I heard earlier in the week that the possibility was going to happen, and obviously, some things got broke here that he didn't get a waiver. It doesn't make sense, right? I mean, he got into graduate school. That was clearly on social media. I mean, unless Pat Downey falsified documents, which I don't think he would go to links to do that. I don't believe that is true. I think he did get into grad school. So he did everything that he was supposed to do, from my understanding. Now, when you're coming from multiple schools, Nebraska, Iowa State, NCAA, I believe, has to approve it, and there's a clause in there, and this is what it's all over the internet, kind of what they think has been happening. When you were at Nebraska, he tested positive for drugs. That's what I know, right? So when he went to Iowa State, and maybe at Iowa Central too, I'm not sure, he had to do a test prior to coming on the team. And I would assume that you'd have to do that at Iowa too. From what I was told, how he got into Iowa State, he had to take a drug test. Same thing at the University of Iowa. So that's the only thing that I can imagine stopping him from getting on the team, because he freaking somehow passed Iowa State. I mean, kudos to him. I mean, people from Iowa State thought there's no way that he could do those credit hours. He got it done. Iowa, he gets into graduate school. No one from the IA Russell crew or anybody thought, like, this is impossible. Like, how the heck does he get in? Gets it done. So the only logical thing that makes sense is he had to take this test, and it didn't go his way. That's what I'm trying to puzzle together, and I've kind of just obviously I'm not even going to reach out to Pat, not even going to deal with the coaches because they can't talk about it, because he was never on the team. He was never officially on the roster, so he's technically a recruit, and they can't comment on those things. University's not talking about it, so you can kind of only go back doors of what people are hearing. So my 2 cents, I think that's what happened. I'm speculating, and I've got a pretty good inkling that that's what happened, and it's squashed now. He's done. He's going to be... if that's the case, I don't see how he stays at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. It's really, really a shame, because I heard that he's been doing great in the wrestling room, been killing some fools in there, as he would say, and it's just really disappointing if you're wanting to give this kid a shot, and then he just kind of pissed it down his leg. So it's really, really kind of disappointing, I think, if you're one of those guys that wants people to get that second chance. We saw Andrew Long get his third chance at Grandview. He pissed it down his leg, and I'm kind of starting to believe, like, why are we giving all these kids chances? And it's, Chance Marsteller, he's doing great right now. I don't even know what's Chance. I don't even know what Chance is ranked right now, but he's doing.
Think he cracked the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, he's killing it right now. That's a kid that got a third chance. So part of me wants to keep giving these kids chances, but we haven't had much luck here in Iowa. And again, I'm speculating what happened, but that's the only thing that makes sense to me right now. I don't see how the NCAA allows him to not to wrestle after he does everything correctly. I don't think Iowa State is holding him back. That if that was true, that it would look really bad on Iowa State. If it's a coaching staff, that would look even worse. So I don't feel like that is the case. So what's your feelings on it?
I was just gonna say, so there's I mean, I don't really know all of the ways, but the circumstance you bring up to why he didn't make it on by failing a drug test, that's obviously probably one of the more likely ones. That's kind of what was, I think, rumored to be the team violation for him being kicked off the Iowa State team. So that's just kind of one of the more likely ones. But obviously the bigger hurdles after he graduated was getting the NCAA waiver. That could have stopped him from getting into Iowa. And, Tony, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts, because I think another thing I've had people text me today asking me if this was the case. Do you think it would have been because of maybe those failed drug tests, or rumored failed drug tests, I guess I should phrase it as, at Iowa State could have impacted him getting in at Iowa? Because that's what somebody asked me today, because they know about, or they think they know about the Iowa State situation. So they said, could those drug tests affected him getting into Iowa? Is that?
Well, I don't know if those drug tests were done by the NCAA at Iowa State, and if that's the case, then yeah, that's a double strike there. So why would they not drug test him to try to get onto Iowa, especially for the University of Iowa? I mean, that should just be something that they should do anyways. Heck, with any kid, they should probably do that, but I don't think they can. But to get your waiver, you would think that, I just assumed it was because he did it once in Nebraska and that he got popped there. At Iowa State, I always felt like I don't feel like that was a test I feel like that was a test that they did on their own, maybe, because they were trying to, he was trying to prove that he could be on the team. He wasn't coming to practice, and I felt like they maybe hey, Pat, you need to do this in order to get back on the team. If you do that, great. But if not, you're off the team, I guess. Well, he took it, failed, they kicked him off the team.
Okay. Well, so that was just kind of what somebody asked me, was it a failed drug test at Iowa State, or was it, I guess, could it be the test getting into Iowa? When could have a failed drug test, when did it actually occur? Did it happen when he got kicked off back last January, or did it happen, do you think, more recently? I mean, is that something or no?
I don't know.
It would have to be more recently, right? Because otherwise, to me, I'm thinking this logically, why would Iowa take the chance if they already knew? And I don't think Dresser and Metcalf and all those guys are probably not vindictive enough to say, like, hey, just so you know, you can go ahead and try and get him on the team, but this failed drug test we have from us is never gonna go through. Why even try it? I think there's still enough goodwill. There might not be a lot of love between them, but I can't imagine they're gonna say, yeah, go for it, because it's never gonna work because we have a drug test saying he's not getting in.
I have no idea if there's like a certain amount of day policy that someone would have to sit out in order to compete at the Division I level, Division II, Division III. I have no idea what that day parameter is. If there was, obviously, I think the University of Iowa would be privy of it, right? If they knew that was the case. You surely would think they would have looked into that. But either way, I'm not buying that this is an NCAA holding him back. There's lots of people blaming the NCAA. I mean, at some point, we have to hold someone accountable. And I don't think that I give credit to getting to graduate school, getting everything done at Iowa State, but at the end of the day, whether he did have to take another drug test or not, your past sometimes will haunt you. And whether you've changed or you haven't changed, that past is always going to be there. And in this situation, it came up to bite him in the rear end. We see that in everyday life, at jobs. People at Wells Fargo Arena have been fired from new policies because of OWIs or past felonies on their accounts. Where they change policies, boom, you're fired. That's life, where you can't just mess up in life and then just think we're going to sweep it under the rug. I think that's an important lesson for people to learn from this situation, is you just can't always get bailed out of a situation. And I think that's what's happening here. And it's really unfortunate, because I think Pat Downey could have been a national champion based off of what I heard was happening in the room. If he wasn't national champion, he's an All-American for sure. And
yeah, probably cost Iowa 16 points, or maybe 15, something around that neighborhood.
Yep. So the question of what's going on with Mitch Bowman and those guys, they got to take the ball and run with it, and hopefully there's no drama around the Pat Downey saga. I know PD2 was in town on Saturday too, and people were texting me all the time, want to know why is PD2 here. I think he was expected to wrestle on Saturday. I think that's why his dad drove all the way here to find out what's going on, to hopefully maybe watch him wrestle. Well, that didn't happen. The NCAA, if the NCAA straight up denied him for other reasons than that, I feel like there should be some kind of documentation out there from it, and I'd hope that someone could produce that for us at the University of Iowa or the NCAA. Right. What is the real reason? I would expect that to be a document that you got a letter saying, nope, you're not in. Why isn't that on social media? But enough about Pat Downey. As long as we're sticking on drama, dude. Let's go to Iowa State. Our boy Kanen Storr.
He's leaving Iowa State. Unfortunately, we didn't do a podcast to talk about that. We both kind of end up having busy schedules. So I'm just minding my own business on Saturday, and all of a sudden this bomb gets dropped on takedown radio. So you gotta walk us through a little bit what was going on when Kevin Dresser's talking to you guys, and all of a sudden just the drama starts, I guess.
It was a bomb. I mean, Scott wanted me to interview Kevin Dresser because I told him we're not doing softballs. I want to talk about Kanen Storr and find out what the heck's going on. They've had multiple people leave the program. What the heck is going on? And you're going to have some of that, I think, any kind of changeover with coaches. And based off what these new coaches are saying, some of these kids are just they're not used to being pushed the way that Kevin Dresser and company are willing to push them. So I went in an interview not really knowing that was going to happen. I knew kind of why Kanen left. He wasn't happy. That's what I thought. And then Kevin Dresser drops a bomb that he was being tampered with from previous coaches. That was, when he said that, I was like, what the hell is going on? That's a pretty bold allegation, right? And then Cody Goodwin asked something like, okay, well, who's gonna be wrestling 141 or something like that? Who's gonna be taking the spot? I'm sitting over here like, hold up a minute. He just said that previous coaches have been tampering with him and contacting him. I'm like, that's not okay. That's tampering, whatever. That's illegal. So I asked him a follow-up question, which I knew the answer to. Hey, can you contact a wrestler from another team? Obviously, no. Kevin Dresser's like, no. Yeah, there'll be ramifications coming from that. Okay, so the interview goes down. Internet blew up from people that that were listening and saw it on social media. And since then, Kanen Storr, he kind of went quiet. He was quiet for a full 72 hours, and he tweeted out the untold story coming soon. Did you see that?
It sure did. I think a lot of people kind of did the eyes looking to the left or whatever quote tweet on that one.
Yeah, you're like, what's really
going
happened?
on here?
So I hit him up, and I reached out to him when the news came out and just said, hey, I got to imagine this is a tough decision for you. I don't want to put you in a bad spot, but could you give me any kind of quote or reason why you did it? And he just said, this is what's best for me, and there's no underlying reason. Right now, this is the best reason. So I just let it be, right? Then I saw that tweet. I'm like, Kanen, all right, what's up, dude? And then I talked to him and for quite a while, almost a half hour. And it was pretty deep, I guess you could say. Ross, we've had him at the Night of Conflict, and he was one of the OGs of Night of Conflict, so I feel like I've always kind of had a respect for him to look out for him, and people taking a risk on us, and I'm gonna look out for these kids. And whenever you transfer, he's got to finish out school at Iowa State. He's got to walk on campus, see his former teammates, knowing that he left them. He's letting some of his teammates down. That's not easy to do. So the interview was pretty tough. Here's what I can say that basically the situation is Kanen just didn't feel like he was getting enough one-on-one time with the coaches. These coaches are doing so much to try to instill the new mindset from all these kids of what they want on campus, and Kanen didn't feel like he was getting the one-on-one attention. And I can imagine, right? He's the stud he's the poster child from Iowa State, the previous administration. He's the guy in his high school, and then these guys come in and there's no special treatment. So I can see why that would suck, right? And if these guys have a different mentality, then everything will be okay. And I think that's what they had before. Being your friend, not your coach, not the guy that motivates you. And I don't know. I wasn't in the room with the Paulsons or KJ Escobedo, but I get that feel that Storr didn't like being pushed, and he felt like it was a distraction, which is really unfortunate. And the biggest thing that people need to know here is he's not leaving because he has other options. Yes, the information that Dresser put out there of him being contacted by the Paulsons is 100% true. He told me that he'd been in contact, but he's a landlord of his. Kanen almost was like, what the, this is a guy that is my best buddy. But at the end of the day, you can't do that. Even though you're buddies with somebody, you can't contact somebody. NCAA, NCAA is going to handle it. Iowa State's taking it to that level. So I'm I see where Kanen's coming from, trying to be in a place where he wants to be comfortable, and ultimately that's what it comes down to, right? But he's pretty bummed that he didn't get to finish the rest of his year out. That's what's really tough for me to hear, is a kid didn't feel comfortable enough to finish out the full semester, right? Right. I got to get out of the situation, and he's got a girlfriend too. That I see a lot of stuff on Instagram, right? This is a pretty serious relationship. At that age, every relationship is serious, right, Ross?
Right.
But
yeah.
But that comes into play too. So this wasn't probably an easy decision for him. I might have scooted around the issue here a little bit, but he didn't I'm transferring because I'm going to go to Virginia. He has no plan whatsoever. I think Virginia's probably at the top of his list, but I'm going to explore all my options. I'm going to take visits of places I want, but I think Virginia is more probably at the top of his list.
So, do you know, was his request to be released? Sometimes a school can grant your request to be released, but they still can restrict what schools you can talk to. Do you know, did he have any restrictions, or was he able to, did he say anything about that?
Well, he can't go. Iowa State's policy is he cannot transfer to another Big 12 school, I believe, or an in-state school. But he can transfer anywhere else he wants to go.
Gotcha. I was just kind of curious how that would play into it.
I think he probably could request a waiver or something, though, right? I think.
I don't know if he just has to sit out, if that's just the school. If that's your school releasing you from your scholarship. I guess I don't know if you kind of Virginia Tech did to Iowa. You wanted to go there anyway. Well, Virginia Tech said you couldn't. So that's, he's definitely going to have options. He's, I don't know about all the websites that rank, college rankings, but he's definitely pretty close to consensus top 20 guy at 141. So he'll definitely have options, whether it's Virginia or whether it's back home in Michigan, whether it's anywhere. So definitely be interesting to follow him. Like you said, he's an OG Night of Conflict guy. He repped IA Wrestle at the Midlands tournament as a true freshman, so that was pretty cool for us. Yeah, it's definitely kind of just a weird situation.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens from here on out, because they're looking for specific recruits that they want to get, and Kanen just wasn't the guy.
A lot of these guys, it's kind of like, college football, if you want to translate it to that, some coaches run a pro-style offense, and if that coach leaves or gets fired and you bring in a guy that runs a spread offense, maybe your style's not going to fit with this coach. Maybe, you just don't fit in. There's also the mentality, how hard would it be to be in today's age? If you transfer into Iowa football program, Kirk Ferentz is going to take away your Twitter. That's just part of the deal. So if a guy like Kirk Ferentz showed up at some other school and says you're no longer on social media, it can be real life changes that, we're talking about guys that are 20 years old, 19 years old. They're young. They want to, they're out on their own. They're just kind of trying to find themselves. So if you're coming in and you're just completely not what they want, why would you stay in that position when you can find, something that fits you a little bit better? So I think it's just, like you said, definitely just not quite meshing, even though we kind of thought it maybe would. It just sometimes you don't see everything on the surface. When you look at the surface, you don't see everything beneath.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that with Iowa, right? They had such a huge recruiting class, and we just saw everyone leave. I mean, Carter Happel's the only one that's left, right? Rathbun left, Wagner left.
For the Iowa guys, yeah, Malcolm. Yep, they definitely lost a lot.
Malcolm's
of
gone.
The in-state kids definitely left. Yeah.
So sure. once you get in those situations, I think that redshirt freshman year, those 2 years are so difficult. You're just trying to figure out what's the right fit. Is it a fit? And I just feel like these kids nowadays, it means more to them to have that relationship, and it just wasn't there. And that's just a part of from the first phone call of a recruit to when you get them on campus. And these coaches weren't part of that process, and I think that's just what the deal is they weren't a part of the full from start to finish. You don't have that relationship, that bond with your coach. There's nothing else to the story there. So Kanen Storr, we wish him the best of the luck. Obviously, Iowa State is going to be okay because Ian Parker bumped. He got in the lineup and beat Dean Heil. And that was pretty cool. I talked to Kanen too, and this will be the last thing I say about him is he has no ill will. He's pumped for for Parker. Does he wish he would have had that opportunity? Great, yeah, but man, talk about a time to get out. I mean, Parker is able to come in and steal the show, and talk about a confidence booster for him because he's had an interesting year. Knock off Dean Heil. I mean, is this a guy that can, qualify for NCAAs and make a run for it? AA stand for Iowa State. I don't know.
That's definitely one of the more interesting things because he knocked off Mike Longo on Friday, who beat Kanen Storr 2-1, I want to say, at Lindenwood. So we're talking about a guy that beat Storr. Obviously, he's pretty good. He's a 3-time national qualifier. Probably going to go to his 4th NCAAs. And then, like you said, he turns around 2 days later and beats a 2-time NCAA champ. And I kind of hate that people take away from it that Heil's kind of in the middle of a, they want to say a bad stretch, but it's really funny that, his bad stretch, he's wrestling Bryce Meredith, he's wrestling Kevin Jack, he's wrestling some really good guys that to have a bad stretch against top 5 guys. Jaden Ironman, I know he got pinned, but Ironman's a top 5 guy. So it's not like all of his losses have been to just new kids on the block that are ranked 18th or not ranked. We're talking about some pretty solid guys. So this is definitely a good win from Ian Parker, and I kind of wish people would stop taking away from his win based on Heil's struggle with the rest of the top competition.
Yeah, I hear you. So we'll see where Parker lands. I think that's the storyline there for Iowa State is, how good now can Ian Parker be when he's the guy. So some other things, I guess, on the website. Obviously, rankings came out. Our postseason coverage is going to ramp up here. I was just working on the State Hub today, Ross, going through our State Hub last season and getting things set up for this year. Gets me pretty pumped up for what we got going on. I think we're going to have a little radio coverage. I've been talking to some radio stations about, covering specific classes that if they're available. I've got good connections here in Des Moines, so they're going to want to cover 3A. We got to find some people to cover 2A and 1A for us. So I'll be on the lookout for that. It's pretty exciting stuff here for IA Russell to be involved in that. So the 1A, 2A rankings came out. Look out for that podcast. We're going to have Lars and Eric Shares come in, dive down into their final set of rankings. It's pretty crazy to even think that we're on our final set of rankings.
Lars's tweet that he's done ranking for the year, and I was like, wow, that's insane.
It's kind of sad.
Where did the season go?
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but I want to end this podcast a little bit with the Dan Gable Mr. Wrestler of the Year award.
Can I just say one thing before we do your wrap up here? I just want to talk a little bit about the MVC tournament. There's two huge results involving some Iowa City West kids and Dubuque Waller. So Nelson Brands, he definitely gets a lot of love on the website, obviously. A lot of people want to hear about Nelson, but he pinned Josh Ramirez in the MVC finals. He dominated his way through his tournament and became the first ever wrestler to win the OW Wrestler at MVC tournament 4 years in a row. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did. I saw the photo of Nelson with like his hands up and he's like on top, like walking away from Ramirez. That was pretty BA, man. So that
was pretty legit. And then I also want to give props to Boom McDermott, right?
Yep.
So he beats Dugan in the duel. 2 days later, turns around, pins him, MVC. That's pretty big news for a guy that is not nationally ranked to come out and be top 5 guy in the country 2 times in a row, in a 2-day stretch. That's pretty incredible. So I kind of wanted to give some props there to, a guy that, he's not in our Fab 50. I'm sure he's a guy that's pretty close, but just thought, that recognition alone, just, that was pretty outstanding. So just kind of wanted to throw some love to what was going on there at the MVC.
Well, while we're on the high school topic, we can keep going here.
Well, I'm sorry. I just wanted to, because I was, sitting there at the Iowa duel, and I'm like, holy crap, Nelson Brands is going to be a 4-time OW. And then I was like, holy crap, what's going on at 220? It's just kind of crazy.
Well, they wrestled on Thursday night in a duel too. They both got wins there too. 2 big wins.
Streamed live on IA Wrestle.
It was streamed, yeah. And, this Thursday we've got Valley versus Fort Dodge, and I'm excited. We're gonna talk about a little about 3A wrestling because we were at the CIML tournament, and you missed a show. This literally, I know people hate me saying like this is the toughest conference tournament, but it's hard to argue against it. We had 55 ranked wrestlers. It's like
a high school state tournament.
Yeah, we had 55 ranked wrestlers at this thing. I mean, Colin Shraver beats Drake Ayala in the finals. I mean, Drake Ayala's been that was his first loss. That was huge. Nick Oldham walked through 113 pounds. Biscaglia walked through 120 pounds. But at 126, Teskey pins the number 2 ranked wrestler in the state. No, I mean, not a big shocker that Teskey can do that, but shows his dominance at 26. Zach Price was, I mean, I'm kind of I always say a Johnson homer, but I got a little spot in my heart for my Johnson boys. I haven't been in the wrestling room for 5 years, probably it seems like, but Zach Price was able to beat Drew Bennett in a burner 10-9. Bennett just dominated him earlier in the duel. So Zach Price has got a lot of momentum going in here in the state tournament. Hope to see these guys in the finals because that is a heck of a weight class for those two. Huge. I mean, Zach Price is both of these guys really. They're no state titles, and they have had just run-ins after run-ins, and just haven't been able to win the big ones. Connor Dalton throws Devil Dentist in overtime. That was absolutely insane. I'm so pissed off we don't have the results or the archives of that. But Connor Dalton knocks out multiple ranked wrestlers in this tournament. Cade DeVos goes down. Cade DeVos goes down to Damon Lochner. No one saw that one coming, right? Cade Lara goes down to Grant Stotts. Here's one, people were like, well, why is Cade Lara rated behind Grant Stotts? What would you mean? Have you heard that yet, Ross?
Because who did?
I mean, Cade Lara is ranked nationally at this weight.
Okay, I guess I didn't even know that.
He is, but
is it because of? I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
And I think the predicament has Lara ahead of Stotts too. Nothing against Lara, but Stotts is a 3-time finalist, 2-time state champ, right?
I think he's just one
time
champ.
state champ, 3-time finalist, or something like that.
Yep.
So that, we're going to see them Thursday night, Stotts versus Lara again. It'd be interesting to see how Lara handles that match. Both of them were really tentative. No one really pulled the trigger. If Lara wants to beat Stotts, he should be in way better shape than Grant Stotts. So he's got to push the pace in order to get that done. Some other interesting notes, I guess. Shapiro just dominates, dresser dump, boom. That's really probably it, as far as the CIML goes. That wasn't too crazy of numbers, and hopefully the guys will break those down a little bit in our podcast with Kirk Crittenden next week about the 3A rankings. Anything else you've got here before I want to get to this Dan Gable. We've got some nonsense going here with this thing. I feel like we had a little bit of drama on this podcast, but this Dan Gable award has just been. There's a little bit of a crew here that just are crybabies a little bit, don't you think?
Because I don't even know what problem you're referring to, because there's a little bit of two things going on right now.
People are not understanding that you have to wait a full 24 hours. At least I've never had the problem here. Every single time I'll see a comment, hey, it's not letting me vote again. Well, I'll go in and I'll try to vote. I only vote when people complain, because I don't feel like I should hinder the tallies. So, but I will just check it to make sure that it is counting the tallies. And it works for me every single time. I'm able to vote. But people are still not understanding, or they're having problems of not voting. So what am I missing here?
I voted on multiple computers, phones. I've grabbed other people's phones that are not my phones, that never been to IA Wrestle maybe. I've voted from my work computer. I voted from just everything I can think of, and it's never come up with the message that people say they are getting that. I've never voted on this, and it's telling me my vote's already been counted. I never run into that. So I honestly don't know how that error could come up. This is run through Poll Daddy. We're talking about a company that lives on making polls. There is no conspiracy that IA Wrestle, like Trey Brisker, we are not out to get you, okay? We are not hindering the town of Wilton voting for you.
I do want to say that. I thought it was Sadler. People are complaining about Sadler voting.
Yeah, there's been some Sadler, and apparently, something else. Can I bring this up? Maybe you were going to, but okay. So this was what I really love reading the comments is. So people are saying all of Tanner Sloan's votes are coming in at 1 a.m. Isn't that a little suspicious? How do you know that all these votes are coming in at 1 a.m.?
Yeah, who stays up till 1 a.m. to check the votes?
And who's monitoring the poll every hour to see when it's jumping? Like that is just insane. I read that this morning and I was like, I literally cannot believe that somebody's saying, isn't it suspicious that this is happening at 1 a.m.? I can tell you I have never noticed that, because I haven't been like, hey, 1 a.m., better check that poll, make sure nothing suspicious is happening. Like, that is insane.
Well,
I do appreciate it bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, I've tried to I've tested it, like you said, on multiple. Maybe people are just going to assume that we are lying, but I've tested on my phones, like you said, different computers. I haven't had the issue because I've waited a full 24 hours. And maybe, some people are voting. What I think is happening is people are at their same workplace, and they happen to have the same IP addresses. I'm not an IT guy. I thought that you'd have different IP addresses for every single device that you have. But the only logical thing that I could think of somebody that's not an IT person is these people are voting from the same computer data source at work or school, and it's just saying that their vote is already counted, and maybe somebody that they don't even know actually already voted from that IP address, so they just think, oh, we're getting cheated out. It's just so crazy to me that people People are saying that Joel Shapiro is hacking the website to get 100 votes at 1 a.m. in the morning. Maybe there's somebody doing that. I don't know, but you would think that Poll Daddy would notify us that there is, hey, in a 5-minute span, there's 100 votes that happen at one time. If those are coming from multiple IP addresses, then if they were smart enough, or if they sent an email out to their school every single morning, hey, vote for Joel Shapiro, vote for Brian Sadler, 8 a.m., homeroom. If I'm a coach, I'm going to say, hey, go vote right now on all your computers. We want him to get an extra vote. I mean, I would do that too, right? I mean, who's not going to vote for their guy at their school?
Yeah, definitely would have done it at our school growing up. Especially if it had been like computer class, everybody's logging onto that computer. It had been like, hey, let's show some school pride. First thing we're going to do, we're just going to log on. We're going to vote for whoever, and then we're going to go about class. I 100% could see that. We're Iowa. The state of Iowa loves to win online polls. So that's probably where a lot of it's coming from. Just everybody is so used to we're Iowa. We always win. But when you're going up against other Iowans, it's not as easy.
Yeah. Here's one thing that I really enjoyed by obviously an anonymous post, which we get on our website. This is a social media poll. It's meant to bring awareness and fire fans up. These kids don't control who votes. Don't criticize them. I'm sure the panel will pick the person who is most deserving. Let's be proud of all the kids in the polls who accomplished. Thank you. This person, you're going to get a freaking free hat. I mean, the goal of this poll is to aware fans that this award is actually happening. I mean, I'm happy that people are pissed off and can't vote. I mean, we had 60,000 votes in the first round. There's not 60,000 people in Iowa that even knew of the Dan Gable Wrestler of the Year award. I'd be shocked if anybody knew what this award was that had voted already, right? I mean, That's the point of this. These votes are a social... I mean, we're trying to get more people exposed to this Heisman of wrestling, and it's one extra vote. There's 12 people on the committee. This fan vote is just one extra vote, and I'm excited that people are upset about it, but I can promise you, folks, IA Wrestle is not manipulating or stopping the voting of one person on any poll. We don't have the time to do that, nor how the hell we even know how to do that. So if you have screenshots proving it, please send it to me. That's why I said I put it on Twitter today. I had people randomly do it. No one had issues. So my guess is people are just either not realizing that if I vote 8 o'clock in the morning and then, heck, I wake up the next day at 6 o'clock in the morning and I vote, well, that's not 24 hours. It's the next day. Sometimes people are like, oh, it's 24 hours. It's just another day. Well, no, it's not. That's not it. 24 hours.
24 actual hours.
Yeah, wait 36 hours and see if it still happens. So, with that said, we are going to have this. I'm pretty excited. You know, IA Wrestle is obviously involved, but this is going to be. In the past, it's been at a restaurant or a venue, like a wedding type venue. But we're going to actually take this thing to the Iowa Hall of Pride, and it will be it'll be a Thursday after the state tournament. We'll bring in people, we'll have lunch. Fareway and PowerAde. We're going to knock this thing out of the park. If you've never been to the Iowa Hall of Pride, it's definitely something you need to be a part of. It's got tons of history in there of high school sports and really cool display for wrestling. And I'm really excited that we're a part of it. I mean, we're going to have over 100,000 votes in this thing and really, create some awareness from it. And we're going to do some bigger things in the future. I mean, I want to see some cutouts at Fareway food stores of Brody Teskey. Well, he'll be gone now, but I want Colin Shraver to have a cutout, in his local Fareway food store of, hey, vote for Colin on iawrestle.com or something. That's what we should be doing with this award, and that's what we're going to do. So by you voting, showing the people at Fareway that this is a meaningful award, we appreciate all your votes. And we just simply, apologize if you had any issues, but we don't see it. Please help us out if you do have the issues. But on that note, Ross, anything else? Sectional wrestling tournament, 12 o'clock. Check your, we've got all the schedules up on our website. You can check that out. I think there's some pretty exciting. There's a couple sectional tournaments out there that are pretty powerful. There's probably 3 or 4 of them in 1A, 2 of them in 2A, where there's at least 3 ranked wrestlers in a couple weight classes. But this is kind of the prelude to the big shebang at Wells Fargo.
For sure, everybody starts this weekend 0-0. So obviously this is the big time, the go time to go. I think everybody be really interested. Like Felicity Taylor, women's wrestler, got 100 career wins. I mean, there's just this is where a lot of storylines for the Wells Fargo start. So it's a pretty exciting time.
All right, Ross, appreciate the time as always. Look for our other podcasts from the guys that are doing the rankings. Ross and I will be back next week. And, hopefully we won't have any more drama. If we talked 40 minutes about Kanen Storr and Pat Downey, and they're not even actually competing this season. So hopefully we'll have some good news to report, and we'll get on that too. But we got to talk about these topics. This is big in the big news in college wrestling, and we appreciate you tuning in to Potentially Dangerous episode 108. Until next time, for Ross Bartachek, everybody else at IA Russell, I'm Tony Hager. Thanks for listening.